In this video, we will discuss about the impact of tumor necrosis factor or alpha or TNF-alpha on some diseases. And some of these diseases that we have already discussed in our previous videos, such as this inflammatory bowel diseases, and what are the functions of this T regulatory immune cells, and so I hope you already have some basic idea about the uh, types of cells that are mentioned here. If you need to uh, revise those topics, you can go through those previously posted videos. So let us start with this TNF alpha impact on this rheumatoid arthritis. So what happens in this case, that it will down regulate these T regulatory cells, and the function of these T regulatory cells is to control the immune response or to suppress the immune response whenever there is no need of immune response. However, this TNF alpha is leads to down regulation of T regulatory cells, and because of this, what happens is that the immune response that has already been triggered in these conditions will continue to rise because there is no check available to suppress the immune response, and that will lead to the inflammation, and in long term it might also lead to the tissue necrosis or cartilage erosion and bone destruction. And the map is shown here that it will down regulate T regulatory cells. At the same time, when it interact with this cyanophil fibroblast, it will lead to trigger this kind of cytokines. It will lead to the T cells activations, and also the macrophages, neutrophils, and B cells are also starts to work against starts to work or starts to work as a pro-inflammatory response, since there is no control available in terms of this low amount of the since there is no control available, as the T regulatory cells is down regulated by the TNF alpha. So this is the conditions in rheumatoid arthritis. In the uh, case of inflammatory bowel disease, what happens is that we already discussed in our previous videos that the inflammatory bowel disease is because of the imbalance between pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory factors. So in this case, what happens, this TNF alpha will promote the pro-inflammatory factors, where at the same time it will down regulate at the same time it will down regulate the anti-inflammatory factors, and that is been shown here that it will activate macrophages, T cells, and recruit neutrophils and edema. However, there is no indications about anti-inflammatory factors. So these pro-inflammatory factors are upregulated. It will lead to the inflammation, tissue remodeling, and these edema and granuloma formation. That is shown here. This edema and granular formations. That is also harmful to the patients. And thereafter, this psoriatic arthritis is shown here. So in this case, the similar thing happens, that the TNF alpha will activates these macrophages and dendritic cells that will recruit more inflammatory cells, and that will trigger this activation of the T cells into Th17 that will generate this IL-17 cytokines, and thereby promote pro-inflammatory response. This will also lead to the diseases that are related to the pro-inflammations, diseases that are related to the inflammations. Next, the last disease that is shown here is about systematic lupus uh, erythematosus. So in this case, the apoptotic T cells are there. So the body will generate antibodies from these apoptotic T cells against the T cells. That will lead to the autoimmune disease. For example, this upregulations of this for example, because of this TNF alpha, it will lead to the apoptotic of the T cells, and these apoptotic T cells will go to the immune system and will generate antibodies against the T cells, and this is known as immune pathogenic injury. That will impact the T cells of the host itself, and simultaneously, what will happen is the autoantigens are autoantigens are being received by the immune system, such as the B cells, that will leads to this auto immunity, or we can say immunity against the immune cells of the host. And this kind of condition occurs when this TNF-alpha is upregulated, and also these cytokine factors are downregulated, and these things are being controlled by these TNF-alpha upregulations. It will downregulate these factors, and and at the same time it will trigger apoptotic of the T cells. It will lead to this autoantibody generations against the T cells, and also these autoantigens will lead to the autoimmunity with the help of these dendritic cells that will pass the antigen of these apoptotic cells through major histocompatibility complex. I hope you got a basic idea how this tumor necrosis factors is harmful, uh, or is harmful to the patients, and it might lead to the various diseases, and some of them are shown here. If you didn't understand in detail about tumor necrosis factors, you can go through the reference that has been provided in the description. That's all for this video. Thank you for your time.